Hey there! I had the wonderful opportunity to once again work with Max and the Twitch Rivals crew, this time for MKX Lives. I had the chance to speak with folks from Netherrealm studios such as Tyler Lansdown, Mike Stallone, and even Ed Boon himself about the making of Mortal Kombat X and topics such as guest characters, netcode, and much more. Would you like to see more Mortal Kombat videos like these in the future? Let me know in the comments below, and be sure to subscribe for more awesome fighting game content. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy the videos.
Well, the main idea behind giving characters variation was for variety's sake. You know, we've always had different characters in Mortal Kombat. We always thought it would be really cool to have different versions of those characters. The original idea was to think back to the games of the returning fighters. Like, we would always do a new Mortal Kombat game, but we'd always have Scorpion. But he played a little bit different from the other ones. And so the idea was, what if we had kind of like three versions, 3 games worth of Scorpions in one game? And how would that affect the meta of the game? Just the kind of mixing things up and just getting as much variety as possible. There was probably some relationship with some of the ideas that we had in previous games, obviously. Probably the most extreme version when we first started talking was, what if there was a completely different version with a completely different set of moveset? Even the basic punches and kicks would all be different. They would have their own costumes. But that really, at the end of the day, would end up being, we'd have to do 3 characters for every character, which just wasn't a reasonable thing. So we had to scope it down. Another reason was to keep some level of familiarity, because we wanted people who really love to play someone like Sub-Zero to try the different variations and try the different versions of him. And we didn't want them to have to learn all of his basic moves. We eventually found a balance between familiarity with that character, but then offshoots of that character to be able to add that kind of variety that we're looking for. It was as probably difficult as you would expect. You know, when you have, let's say, for the sake of a round number, 25 characters to balance, and then there's 3 versions of each one. In some respects, it's 75 characters that you're kind of combining and making sure there isn't something broken or too broken within those characters. So it was very extensive QA testing, quite a bit of infinites and imbalances and that were discovered not only within QA, but once we released the game and all of a sudden millions of people have their hands on it, it's, as you would expect, quite a number of surprises would pop up.
2 bars, so he's gonna have some yanks to play with. Instead, not gonna need it.
That's it.
And
Game
are we gonna hit it?
over.
Split her in half.
At the end of the day, our team is very similar to our players. We're probably a bit older, but at the same time, we love 80s and 90s action and horror movies. As kids, you would always kind of have that discussion of, wouldn't it be cool, or who would win in a fight, Batman or Spider-Man? Who would win in a fight, Godzilla or Kong? So these are the kind of classic matchups that we just happen to be in a situation where we're making a game with known characters, Scorpion, Sub-Zero, Raiden, and we would say, who would win in a fight, Freddy Krueger or Raiden? Who would win in a fight, Rambo or Sub-Zero? And it's literally scratching that kind of nostalgia itch from our standpoint. I think probably the main thing is recognizable, iconic, signature abilities that character has. There's a million examples that we can draw from, but one of the ones that design came up with, which I was really pleased with, was when Jason would lose, he'd basically sit up and all of a sudden would have a second chance. That was a great nod to an ability that he had, perfectly fitting it into a fighting game. And of course, that also extends to abilities with, Predator and the laser beams, and Alien and the acid, and Rambo and his bow and arrow, just all of those things. Again, as fans of those characters, if you would imagine yourself, how would you go about making these characters? You probably go through a very similar process as we do. I would imagine it does bring a certain amount of players who might not have checked out the game because, maybe they think that it's too hardcore, it's too, competitive, or, you go online and you get beat up. But I don't think that was the main function for our decision to put them in. Again, it's, there is a very strong wouldn't it be cool factor that we have amongst us. Just kind of geek talk about that. It just sparks people's recollections of things that happened in them. And that's really the driving force with all of our guest characters. With every game, I think we have at least 10 characters that we discussed for everyone that makes it into the game. And the ones that don't make it into the game aren't necessarily because we chose not to. As you would imagine, there's a whole bunch of complexities involved with legal and licenses, and are they even interested in doing it? So again, that list is so long. I'd love to share that list someday, but there's no way. No way I'd be allowed to.
Alien wins.
The decision to switch to rollback networking actually happened near the launch of MKX. It just took us 9 months to actually make it solid enough to give to the public. The decision itself came about because design leadership basically said that, hey, rollback networking, I think this would give us a big quality boost for the players. So the engineers sat down with these guys and talked it through. And it was very clear that this could make for more competitive online play, a very consistent experience, and make things better for people that have poor connections. It was clear that we had to try. The game and the engine were not built for rollback networking at a very fundamental level. Our game logic was tied deeply to internal engine code. Debugging these rollback issues and all of the desyncs associated with it were extremely difficult. And probably the largest thing was that with rollback networking, we have to simulate our game up to 8 times per frame. Sometimes less, but you have to be prepared for those 8 frames. So we had to optimize the game to run, in some cases, 8 times faster than it previously did. Notable surprises, debugging the desyncs, I think, really took us by surprise in that we had no tools. We had no tools built up to handle a rollback desync. So we had to build the tools while live debugging these things. So that was a curveball.
I actually have a question, Mike, just for me. Are teleports difficult in that regard? Because you don't know where the other player is going to move, and the teleport usually meets them?
I don't recall any visual mispredictions as a result of a teleport being especially problematic. And here's why. When you teleport, it's never a frame 0 teleport. There's always an animation that would play prior to teleport. The animation doesn't have to be very long to get the 2 players in sync on that. So there's always some short wind-up, 5 frames long, 7 frames long, prior to the teleport happening. So that's enough time for the clients to synchronize and get you an accurate teleport. One of the things that I thought was very cool was when we did these invite-only betas, the players immediately loved it. And that was the consistent feedback that we got inside Netherrealm. Because as engineers, we're building it. But at the end of the day, it's going to be our design team, it's going to be our QA team that are the best judge of whether this is working or not. The feedback that we were getting from those guys was that this was a smash success, that this was like very similar to playing offline. The players, we got a bunch of anecdotal stuff that was like people playing over like transatlantic matches, and these things were all, possible. As soon as the beta hit, people were super positive. And then once it went live to the public, everybody loved it. It was a pleasure to do. It was really exciting. It was very fun to deliver something that was it's going to benefit the players, right? The players were coming out ahead from this. The design team wanted it. We were extremely happy to be able to deliver it. That was awesome. It was a smash success, and that's why we'll never go back.
Scorpion wins. Flawless victory.
Our fans are very, very passionate, and that's awesome. They have a connection to what we do because it's been a part of most of their lives for 20 plus years. So everyone who talks to me knows more about the lore. Everyone who talks to me knows more about their character. Like, people are very, very passionate. It's especially exciting talking to fans at when we could do this in live tournaments, and talking to fans and really sitting down with them and discussing the game and playing the game with them. Yeah, there's really nobody else like our fans. They're ride or die with Mortal Kombat, and it's awesome.
One which is going to be plus.
it's gonna do it!
That's going to be the tournament, and Killer Dinok is going to be the Combo Breaker 2018 Grand Champion for Mortal Kombat X.
Hey everybody, welcome to the MKX
Mortal Kombat X.
There we go. Combat Cast. My name is Tyler Lansdown.
They kind of began with, we did a couple of them at the end of Injustice 1 from like a weird room, like a different room every time in the studio with a tiny Logitech webcam, just seeing if the whole idea could work. And we liked it, and it did. And then we actually found a location in the building, got a big sticker up on the wall with the dragon, and thought we would just turn it into like a TV show. Like, I've talked to a lot of fans, and a lot of them say like during the Combat Cast season, it's like one of their favorite things to watch. You know, they'll put it on their TV, they'll watch it from home. Not a lot of studios were doing live streams from their studio talking about upcoming content. The fans grabbed onto it really quickly because we learned that we could show them whatever we wanted as quickly as we wanted to because we were building it in the studio at that moment. So it was easier than going out to news outlets and all this stuff because we could just push a button and show them the character that's coming in DLC in 2 weeks, or show them a new tower that was debuting when the game came out. Like, we could be very agile that way, and that was really important to us. Well, we all have our own sort of thing. I'm just there to facilitate the show moving forward. My favorite thing to do is sort of be the host of the thing and let the game speak for itself. But we have Stephanie Brownback, who's our sort of lore mistress and former competitive player, so knows all that stuff. And then Derek helps work on a lot of the single player modes, and also is just a fun personality. We're all very good friends in the studio, so it translates pretty well to what we do on the show. And then with the latest game, with Mortal Kombat 11, we actually built out a studio for us to use now too, which is going from a random conference room with a Logitech up to a full room with all the bells and whistles. It's been nice because it's proven that the show has worked, and that the studio it's part of what we do when we talk about a game. The Combat Cast is always top of mind when we're deciding how we're going to talk about a game.
I suppose if this is about MKX, on behalf of everybody at Netherrealm, we just wanted to thank everybody for playing that game as much as they have. It's so far exceeded our expectations in terms of market penetration, number of games sold, and longevity, and it's been such a great memory to look back on, and it's so fun now to see people playing it still. And again, there's nothing but appreciation from our part in terms of all the hard work we did. Thanks to everybody for playing the game. That was a really fun ride.
Hope you enjoyed our MKX Lives compilation, and many thanks again to Max and the Twitch Rivals crew for having me on board, as well as to the folks at Netherrealm Studios for taking the time to speak with me. As always, if you like my work, please subscribe to the channel, and if you'd like to support me directly, you can do so over at patreon.com/holdbacktoblog. Until next time.